Many of the characters in Shogun are based off of real-life people from Japanese history, and one of the most important but mysterious characters in the show is the warlord Kuroda. We only hear about him through flashbacks and by his name mentioned a few times. And the character of Kuroda is based off of one of the most influential and important men in Japanese history. And his story is so important to the story of Shogun because in the years leading up to Shogun, he basically set the stage for everything that's playing out in the show. And in this video, I'm going to cover the true story of the warlord Kuroda, some of the key events that set the stage for Shogun. This will give you a much deeper understanding of the story and where it's going in the future. And if that sounds good to you, please don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel for more historical content. So let's get started. The show Shogun begins in the year 1600. It's a turbulent time in Japan, the end of the Sengoku period. It's also a time when William Adams' ship, or John Blackthorne's ship, arrived on the shores of Japan. So you have many different things going on. But later in the series, we find out that the true beginning of the story of Shogun actually occurred decades earlier in the 1580s. And we only find out about this in episode 6 when we're introduced to Lady Ochiba. She is the wife of the late Taiko who has just died. She has a young son with him who she wants to become the next ruler of Japan, and she's willing to do whatever it takes to make it happen. She's introduced as a new power player in Osaka, and she's kind of a rival to Lord Toranaga. And so what happened in the years earlier? Well, Lady Ochiba was actually best friends growing up with Lady Mariko. They grew up together, but everything changed on one fateful day when Lady Mariko's father plotted and assassinated Lady Ochiba's father, who was the warlord Kuroda. And all of this is based on historical fact. The only difference is the names of the characters involved are changed. Lord Kuroda is based off of Oda Nobunaga, who was the most powerful warlord in Japan, and he's known as the Great Unifier of Japan. In his youth, Nobunaga was known as a rebellious and eccentric individual, earning him the nickname the Fool of Owari. He often dressed sloppily, ignored the samurai customs, and even caused public scenes by behaving rudely at formal gatherings. He was quite unorthodox, and this led to him being underestimated by his rivals. But it also masked his sharp intellect and ambition. The Oda clan ruled Owari province in the center of Japan, and after his father's sudden death, the young Oda Nobunaga, who was sharp, ambitious, and ruthless, began an endless stream of wars to expand his own domain. His ultimate goal was to capture Kyoto, where the emperor resided, but there were many obstacles in his way, and one of the most powerful warlords, Imagawa Yoshimoto, who invaded Owari province from the east in the 1560s in order to reach the capital of Kyoto himself. In a display of military genius, Oda Nobunaga crushed Yoshimoto with a much smaller force. In doing so, he not only secured his eastern flank, but gained a valuable ally in Tokugawa Ieyasu, aka Toranaga in the show Shogun. He was one of the generals in Yoshimoto's defeated army that pledged his allegiance to Oda Nobunaga. Fast forward 8 years, and in 1568, Nobunaga became powerful enough to enter Kyoto and reinstate Ashikaga Yoshiaki as shogun. However, the two men did not get along, and in 1573, Nobunaga abolished the shogunate and banished Yoshiaki from the capital. Many talented vassals now entered Nobunaga's service. Among them was Hosokawa Fujitaka and Akechi Mitsuhide. Both delivered sweeping victories for Oda Nobunaga in the area north of Kyoto. To further strengthen the bonds of his generals, Oda Nobunaga ordered the marriage of Fujitaka's son Tadaoki and Mitsuhide's daughter Tama, who is Mariko in Shogun. Another one of his great generals was known as Hideyoshi, who became the Taiko in Shogun. Oda Nobunaga was infamous for his bad temper and ruthless behavior. His cruelty is so well documented that when he raised the Enryaku-ji Temple on Mount Hiei in 1571, he burned thousands of monks, women, and children alive, simply because they supported his enemies. Some people say this created a rift between Nobunaga and one of his best generals, who was a devout Buddhist, Akechi Mitsuhide, who's called Akechi Jinsai in Shogun, the father of Lady Mariko. Unlike other leaders of his time, Oda Nobunaga valued merit and ability over family lineage. He promoted talented but low-born individuals into high-ranking positions, which was a rarity in the strictly hierarchical samurai society. He was very pragmatic and willing to empower capable individuals, regardless of their social standing, and this helped him assemble an incredibly loyal and skilled cadre of retainers like Toyotomi Hideyoshi and Akechi Mitsuhide. Despite his ruthlessness, Nobunaga had a deep appreciation for the arts, particularly theater and tea ceremonies. Nobunaga was also known for his flamboyant personal style. He constructed the magnificent Azuchi Castle, a symbol of his power and ambition, which featured cutting-edge defensive design and luxurious living quarters. Its most striking innovation was a central keep called the Tenshu, a 7-story tower that stood approximately 138 feet tall. And it was colorful, with each level painted in different hues and adorned with gold leaf. It was also the first castle in Japan to use massive stone walls as a foundation, a technique that would later become standard in all future Japanese castle construction. His lavish taste was a reflection of his desire not to just rule Japan, but to change it. In contrast with other daimyos who adhered strictly to intricate etiquette and rituals, Nobunaga had little patience for such customs unless they served his needs. He famously insulted Takeda Shingen, one of his greatest enemies, by sending him a disrespectful letter that ignored the standard forms of polite communication between warlords. Nobunaga's message to him simply read, "If you want to fight, let's fight." And Nobunaga's end was dramatic, just as his life was. He ended up being betrayed by his own general, Akechi Mitsuhide, during an ambush at the Hanoji Temple in Kyoto in 1582. Nobunaga was caught off guard with only a small retinue and fought fiercely before ultimately deciding to commit seppuku and kill himself rather than being captured. And even in death, Nobunaga's defiance of convention stood out. His body was never found, leading to rumors and legends that he may have survived or been resurrected as a supernatural figure. Another interesting thing to point out about the Hanoji incident is that one of the primary accounts we have, which is from a Portuguese missionary telling us what happened at Hanoji, also tells us that one of Oda Nobunaga's bodyguards, who was known as Yasuke, the African samurai, was also present at the Hanoji incident and escaped with his life. And this is a whole nother story in itself, and I have an entire video dedicated to this topic. So if you want to check it out,
it's here.
Thank you for watching. If you learned something new, please consider subscribing to History Leaks. Leave a like and a comment. I personally reply to all of the comments myself, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care.